Welcome to 12-Page Investigative.
In the shadows where the truth hides deep, echoes of the lost and the secrets they keep. Cold cases burn in the back of your mind. We dig through the dark, one clue at a time. This ain't fiction, this is blood, this is truth. 12-Cage investigative, justice uncaged. We ask the questions they're too scared to say, shining a light where the guilty pray. From killers to whispers, we won't look away.
All right. How's everybody doing on this Tuesday afternoon? You know, today's been a hell of a day. Between lightning storms and thunderstorms and all kinds of cloud cover, all kinds of stuff going on. Finally made it home. No electricity at the office, so got to come home early. So I thought, why not get online and talk a little bit true crime? My phone's been blowing up all day today for some damn reason. But you know what? I ain't got time for all that. Let's talk about this manhunt that's going on with Travis Decker. I talked about this case the other day, and we were talking about it a little bit. And I'm kind of curious where it's leading to. See if it's going to be something that is going to continue on, or if they're going to have any kind of luck finding this individual. Because I believe this is 5 days in or something like that. It's been quite a bit. So let's see what Law and Crime has to do. And I want to talk about this because this is important, I believe, due to the 3 little females that were murdered at the hands of this individual. Also, I'm presenting this in fair use for Law and Crime, and we'll see what they got to say. Thank you very much for being here, guys. Let's get this going.
For an Army suspected of killing his 3 young daughters in Washington state. Travis Decker is seen in these new images. Police are warning residents to be vigilant and lock their doors. The governor ordering the National Guard to assist in the search, joining the more than 100 deputies, agents, and officers. I'm Kennedy Walker, and I'll walk you through the details. You're watching Law and Crime. We've all heard that wrinkle creams are the secret to looking younger, but according to one Beverly Hills doctor, that might not be the whole story. Dr. John Lake, a renowned cosmetic surgeon and beauty expert, says that most wrinkle solutions on the market are just glorified moisturizers, and they don't always deliver the results they promise. In fact, some can even irritate your skin. But Dr. Lake did not stop there. He's been working on something new, an anti-aging breakthrough. Again, that's bhmd1.com/law. The manhunt intensifying for Travis Decker, the father accused of killing his 3 daughters, 9-year-old Peyton, 8-year-old Evelyn, and 5-year-old Olivia, during a court-appointed custody visit. More than 100 police officers are combing campgrounds, hiking trails, and forest roads.
Wow, if that's the forest area that he came from, that's going to be damn near impossible unless they got drones, helicopters, and a lot of people looking for this man, because there's a lot of area to to go hide out at.
Desperately searching for the 32-year-old. Governor Bob Ferguson calling on the National Guard and deploying helicopters to support law enforcement.
Travis, if you're out there seeing us, we'd like you to turn yourself in. We want a peaceful resolution to this, but we're not going to relinquish our efforts and giving up any effort that we can proceed to track you down.
I mean, that's the terrible part about this is the individual has like 2 days on everybody else, I believe. I don't know a lot about this. I did a little bit of digging the other day, but I haven't really deep dove, and I wanted to do this with you guys to see what y'all thought about this case. If you've had any um any update that you've been reading or hearing about. Let's see what Bullets has to say. She said, "This story has been so heartbreaking. Truly hope they find him alive. It sounds like he didn't receive the help he needed." That's true. That's a true statement right there. Real true.
So please turn yourself in. Let's wrap this up and do what's right for your kids.
Authorities releasing new images in recent doorbell camera video of Decker just before the killings. Their mother, Whitney, reported them missing after Decker failed to bring the girls home. She said she tried calling, but his phone went straight to voicemail. According to her, Decker was homeless and often stayed at local campgrounds. Documents show that back in September, Decker's overnight visits with his daughters had been revoked. The court order citing neglect of parental.
Okay, so if his court order had been revoked and he was homeless, I mean, I wonder why they allowed the visitation to continue. I've never heard of that, but I'm sure they had their reasons. It says the parenting plan provided by Whitney specifies the visitation hours and discusses holiday and birthday considerations. Notable concerns or reasons putting limitations of parenting show Decker had neglected his parental duties and had a long-term emotional or physical problem that gets in the way of his or her ability to parent. The plan also notes details about access to the children and ability to talk with them via cell phone when needed. So if she called and it went straight to voicemail, then he was obviously not within the ramifications of this plan. Whitney said they agreed to the plan, but the signature line states Decker refused to sign. Decker is also supposed to seek mental health treatment and domestic violence, anger management counseling under the parenting plan, but has not. And you know, when I worked with CPS, that was some of the things that they had the individuals do is they put them on a plan to be able to see their children, such as this, like anger management, substance abuse counseling, things like that. And if they showed the ability to at least be looking like they were invested, then they slowly got visitations. I wonder if this was one of those situations. Do any of you know in the chat anything further than what this statement is allotting to?
Duties and emotional or physical problems affecting his ability to parent. It was further revealed Decker was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder and was supposed to get mental health treatment and anger management, but had not. On June 2nd, the sisters were found zip-tied and asphyxiated. A deputy found Decker's white GMC Sierra pickup near the Rock Island campground in Leavenworth.
Going on 20 years, I don't think I've had a situation that has really almost prompted tears to come up.
Authorities are investigating the possibility that Decker could be in Canada. According to a U.S. Marshals Service affidavit, Google searches done in the days before Decker disappeared shows he allegedly looked up phrases including how to relocate to Canada and how does a person move to Canada. He also recently searched for information tied to a Canadian job site. Those searches leading to...
So, I mean, if you look at what we've been talking about as far as the mens rea, you would think that this would allow that the individual was trying to relocate and move to Canada. No real nefarious thing there other than he killed his daughters. You know, what was the whole aspect of relocating if he was going to kill his daughters other than to potentially flee from apprehension?
federal charges for unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. That's on top of the murder and kidnapping charges Decker is already facing. Decker is a former Army soldier who has extensive military training and, according to police, is considered dangerous and potentially armed.
When talking with his father, it sounds at times that he would go out and would be leaving off grid for sometimes up to 2.5 months. So we also understand too that he at times would do caching. So we understand that that's a possibility that he could have scoped out this area before, put supplies out there, and has the ability and the knowledge to survive for a long period of time.
Police say they have received over 500 tips from the public and will continue to look until they find him.
I mean, that's what's a little scary is the fact that he's a survivalist, obviously. Being past military, I'm sure he's able to withstand the elements and be able to be out there surviving what he needs to do in order to not be apprehended. It's such a sad situation all the way around, but we don't know if the borderline personality disorder was something that would have caused him to be able to just snap like that, or if he was on any kind of medication, or if he stopped taking his medication. Anything like that could have happened.
Decker is described as 5'8" and 190 pounds with black hair and brown eyes. Washington State Police are urging residents to lock their doors and windows and to leave their outside lights on. A $20,000 reward has been offered for any information leading to Decker's arrest. And here to break this down with me is retired NYPD Detective David Sarney. David, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
So let's just jump right in. From your experience, when someone like Travis Decker disappears after a crime of this magnitude, what's the first thing that law enforcement typically does?
Well, what you're going to do is you're going to try to see what footprints he has, being social media, cell phone records, things like that. The vehicle is at the location. That's one thing. Apparently, his phone is off. We don't know where it is at this point. He has pulled himself off the grid in a sense. Looks like, because I mean, this is where he commits a murder, could kill 3 of his kids. Asphyxiation. I mean, the horror there. This is, this looks like it was premeditated. It's planned. He flees the area. He was at the area prior, and that's one thing that the benefit of utilizing that phone the workup on that phone to find out.
Once again, another one that turned off his cell phone to impede apprehension. You know what I mean? That is something that, as they say, most individuals that have something to hide, they turn that cell phone off, they put it in airplane mode or something of that nature. So many times, as he's saying, if you're able to live off the grid, it's hard for you to be located by law enforcement due to turning that phone off, due to trying not to be found. What do y'all think, chat? Do you think that he's smart enough, if he's off his medication, do you think he's smart enough to be thinking that far in advance? Or do you think that maybe his cell phone just died? Do you think that he could have ditched his cell phone? Do you believe that he could have had individuals that potentially are helping him with this? Or do you believe that it just a spontaneous event that happened? He just snapped and took out his 3 daughters. What do you believe? Ronnie said, I wonder if there's lakes or rivers near there. What would be the significance of that, Rondi? Are you saying that he could possibly get on the river and use that as a way to transportate himself quickly? I can see that if that's how you're meaning it. Let's continue on.
He was there prior, and they lose contact with him. But you're seeing you're seeing the development of what he did. The post of this is when he flees. He had time to leave. He's planned this. He's planned it. He plotted it out. He's been there before. He knows the area. Did he get to Canada immediately? Is he hiding somewhere within the forest, within the area? He's doing a grid search, but it's a massive search.
So he said something very enlightening right there. He said he knows the area. He's been there multiple times, so he knows the lay of the land, so to speak. And Rondi said they're trained to use water to get away quickly, and that's true. That is true. And maybe he turned his phone off on purpose.
food sale. So all of the evidence that you have, which you usually do, is the phone records, the vehicle. The phone is not on, and the vehicle's located. So where can he be? And a guy who's lived off the grid could be anywhere at this point, given the fact of his flight. They have video and they have surveillance. They have some video footage and stills of him, around, but they don't.
Do y'all believe that he's still with that white vehicle? Do you believe he's still with that white pickup? Or do you think he's potentially ditched it and went on foot? Do you believe that, he might have another vehicle? Do you might have a, off terrain vehicle, stuff like that? Do you believe that these are some of the things that he could be utilizing to escape from the police custody?
Have anything hardcore at this point to find him, to identify and locate where he exactly.
Right. And it has been days at this point, and the manhunt is still underway. Do you think a reason why they haven't found him yet is just because they didn't move as quickly as they needed to in those first few hours when the mom, Whitney, reported the girls missing? She tried to, ask for an Amber Alert. They wouldn't grant her an Amber Alert. Just things like that that really seem to push the process back. How fast does the response need to be?
See, that is what's terrible is the mom tried to do the right thing and they didn't follow through with it. I think his mental health plays a big part of it, but I think instinct will still be present. You're right. See, the mom tried to report it. They didn't jump on it, probably because the kids were with the individual. I'm still trying to figure out if he's the custodial father or he's the stepfather. If y'all know in the chat, please let me know because, like I said, I haven't researched this really in depthly. So if you could help me out with that, that'd be great. But if he was the custodial father, I could see why him having the rights to be able to take the children off and not have the Amber Alert issued. I could see why that would happen. Clearly, he is mixed up in his mind, but he definitely was thinking this in advance. He was doing this solo and probably ditched his phone. He snapped. I think you're right, Rondi. If he is off his med, that plays with your mind. Correct? I thought custodial dad. See, I'm confused if he is or isn't. Because maybe I'm getting it confused with another case, but if he is the custodial dad, then that makes sense that, if she called in, why they wouldn't put an Amber Alert if indeed those children were with the father. You know what I mean? But still, I mean, they still should have taken the precaution to make sure that those kids were okay, especially if he had these types of mental disorders.
In those first few hours, and how critical is that window?
Well, it is critical, but here, given the fact of where he was, where the vehicle was, he already had that time available. An Amber Alert is beneficial. It didn't fit the parameters because it didn't seem like the kid. She had no way of showing that they were endangered. Or they've had a good relationship prior to this. He always returned the kids on time. There was just some vitriol toward her, but not to the kids. So the police thought, and again, maybe this is something where we have to look at protocols now. When you have 3 missing kids, do you do an immediate whole Amber Alert and endangering the child and putting an NCIC alert out there and everything along those lines? This may gear that now, but it's after the fact. There was nothing. There were no true warning signs to see what was going on. Apparently, the judge thought even though he didn't have a residence, he was considered homeless. He was still able to have visitation. So.
See, that's what's different here in Texas, that if you do not have a residence, you can't get visitation just out in the park. You have to come to a public place, whether it be McDonald's, whether it be a library, whether it be, somewhere where you're surrounded by other people. To be in the park, I know that part of this story is they were going to run a 5K. The 3 little girls were out there to run a 5K. So, I mean, like he just stated, it happened really quickly. It wasn't anything that could have been prevented. I mean, because to be honest, sometimes things just happen. People snap, and the next thing you know, bad things do accommodate after you snap.
If the judges feel that way, law enforcement, which deals with the execution of the work of the courts, they didn't see anything at that moment in time to do anything further than what they did was they searched the area, the general locations of where he and the kids could be, and they didn't find him. But by then they're doing all this. He's long gone. I mean, he's not in that area anymore. They find the location, they find the car, they find the truck, and they find the kids not that far away from where the car or the truck is. And this is something that no one saw coming. They understood he had PTSD, but to the extent of to take the kids on that day in particular.
So PTSD and borderline personality disorder. So you're having all these personality disorders. I mean, if you're gonna be able to say, well, certain people aren't allowed to see their kid due to this, then it's hard to really gauge if somebody is really taking their medication or not, because they could tell you, hey, I'm good to go, but they could really be struggling or not taking their meds at all. And it's a real touchy position because, I mean, people do have right. They have the right to have custodial visits with their children, you know? And it's just terrible that this happened so quickly. They should check and see if he has a storage unit. I wonder how far somebody could get theoretically on foot from the area he went on foot, either direction. I wonder if they've circled that off and flying drones around there and things like that in order to facilitate this manhunt.
And then decide today's the day I'm going to commit these murders. This was planned. I mean, this is what you have to look at. So there's crime of passion and the depth of mental illness. This is intentional. I mean, he was there prior to taking the kids there, so he already had this all set up.
Right.
How fast the police can work is as fast as they can with what they have.
Right. And like how you said, he's most likely long gone from.
No, I wasn't aware of that. Like I said, I'm not very versed in this case, but that's an interesting comment. I appreciate it. Are you aware that he had the girl stay with him in the armory and they called their mother crying because he had left them alone in the armory? That's terrible. Maybe that's why she felt that they weren't safe with him. I can't imagine the horror those poor girls went through. That's true. That's true right there.
From that place where they found the girls' bodies and they found the truck. They're now searching trails, forest roads, and maybe even into Canada, because we do know that there were those Google searches, according to investigators, of him looking for jobs in Canada and things of that nature. What kind of coordination goes into that kind of multi-agency effort when you're searching everywhere?
Well, that's the thing. You have the lead, which is the county where the incident takes place, and then you expand it outward, and you're going to have.
So if you look at what you're saying, that is kind of leading up to a potential issue with the father and the girls. I mean, they were calling the mom, and like you said, the girls also called their mother crying because he had gotten really mad at the dog, and they were afraid of him because he was so angry. That's tough to think about, being those little girls and he being so angry. I believe he was only allotted a few hours now. Okay. But these two statements right here, where you said that they stayed in the armory and they called their mother crying because he had gotten really mad at the dog. So, that's a scary situation for a child, especially this young. To want to be fair, to want to be loyal to the father, but also wanting to be safe and knowing that the mother is able to give you that.
Federal law enforcement involved, and probably Canadian authorities involved in this also, given the fact that you're going to put a hyper search to find him. But here's the other issue. Is there a chance that he might have ended his life somewhere? That's another aspect to this. But we don't.
Let me read this comment. She says, yeah, and Whitney was still trying to give him the benefit of the doubt to let him have the girls. But all reality, we wish you would have, you noticed the man, something not right. That's true. That's true. I mean, people make mistakes, and that's another thing too. Is all the signs in the world, all the expertise, all the training for all this, and it still could have happened because it seemed like he had zip ties and bags, so it was very quick, very quick. It's terrible. It's terrible to think about.
Don't know right now. This is a person who's possibly fled the country. Notifications are out there. They're not supposed to be able to go through Canada there, but there's so many trails, and there's no exact wall in a sense to deter him from going to Canada. It's just a matter of hopefully someone will see him with all those photos out there, with that international assistance, putting the information out on social media.
Would y'all believe he's still alive, or do you believe that somehow he took his own life somewhere? Do you believe he's still alive, chat? Do you believe that he's still trying to get to Canada? Do you believe that, he's going to turn himself in? I mean, there's only so many ways you can go with that truck before somebody's seeing you, especially with this much attention on you. Hopefully, one of those people in those 500 sightings or tips give some kind of reliable information. So that being said, there's a possibility that there's somebody else involved and that he may be dead, but not by his own hand. That's fine. That's fine. That's interesting. That's interesting to hear. Maybe we'll hear more about that.
Putting out in the news on a regular basis, and someone will have to hopefully say something when they see him.
When it comes to searches like this, how exactly do police decide where to search? Because this is a lot of ground to cover. Is it based on tips, or do they rely more on technology and past behavior?
So what makes you feel that way, Harlot? I mean, I've thought that a little bit, but I'm really not quite all the way because, like I said, I'm not that versed in this. What makes y'all believe that he killed himself? I think he is alive, unless he went into a cave or something. The ravens or buzzards would be circling otherwise. Okay, that's good. That's good information. Hey, Leslie.
Well, you just hit on a whole bunch of things. You have technology, you have drones. They probably might have used drones in the area to find out where he was, because you have where the scene took place, the murder scene, the vehicle at the scene. You have those things to work on. So you do a man, sort of like a grid search, but then there's a point of how far does that grid search go? We could utilize drones to find heat sensors. That could be used also. But the benefit also is the extent getting the video cameras out there, finding ways in which to identify where he's been. And we're seeing this more and more, where we have so much good video out there. There's almost nowhere where you can go to not get on video. But here's the issue. This took place in a national park, and there are no cameras there. And this is someone who was there before. He's been in the area before. He knows. He's not.
Okay, that's an interesting statement. Like, I get that's a spoiler alert. Where did the bloody palm print on the truck bumper come from? I haven't even heard about the bloody palm prints. That's interesting, though. The dogs have been located. They were not inside the truck. They were outside the truck, and they have been sent to Humane Society and are being treated as evidence. Okay. He murdered all three of his daughters and left his wallet and dog behind. He probably took himself out before they even found the girls. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you for that, Leslie. Thank you so much. Thank you. I just saw some turkey buzzards last week. People think my guinea bird looks strange. So if he took himself out, and like Cuffy's referring to there possibly being another person, is there a would there be a motive as why this other person would have taken him out and killed his daughters? Okay, okay, Leslie.
He's not a dumb person. This isn't something where he just is a spur of the moment. This is a planned event, and then he probably planned his escape from that area.
Right, and we've heard that he has extensive military survival training on top of that. How does that change the way teams approach looking for someone like him, right? Because like how you said, this isn't just, random person like me, just getting lost out there. This is someone that knows the area, has experience in the area, and just has that military training on top.
Correct, and that's what you're dealing with. You're going to probably have military. Anyone who's been with him in the military, they might.
I wonder if he had any weapons in that truck. Wonder if he had any kind of ability to, you know, you would need some survival stuff if he was homeless. You would think that he would have those things. If he was homeless, that he would have like shovels and, you know, different types of tools to be able to take care of himself. If you want to go watch the last 2 nights episode of Crafted Evidence, Jen invited me on panel and she and I are researching this together. So you can watch both those if you'd like to. Okay, as long as I have permission, I'll do that. Didn't they determine the blood was not human? Yeah, especially if he camped. You would believe that he would have some kind of tools.
Use them as resources, information for him, any past friends, associates, because this is a murder. It's a triple murder of his kids, and I can't see anyone has known him in the past that won't assist law enforcement into at least finding out where he could have gone, where he has been, what type of training, how he's handled it. We see and we've heard the extensive training he has, not only just military training, but he's got arms training. Does he have weapons? Does he have the ability to, kill someone with that? Yeah, he's already killed before. He's been in the military. He has issues. So this is a highly dangerous person.
I had a friend on panel one time, and actually I had two people on panel that were in the military, and they both said this specifically. So I'm only repeating what they've said. They said, in the military, you're trained on a lot of different things. For whatever reason, people have the misconception that they teach you only how to kill in the military. I mean, if you would need more kind of skills right now, it would not necessarily mean that he would need those killing skills. He would need those survival skills. So those survivalistic skills that he may have learned in the military could possibly be helping him right now. And you say, no, they have not. There was male DNA and animal DNA found at the crime scene. But as far as we know right now, the only blood is on the truck bumper. Okay, so I didn't even know about the truck bumper having blood on it.
That needs to be found and arrested as soon as possible.
But again, I guess a big question that a lot of people are asking is if he is believed to be off of the grid and possibly hiding in nature, how do you even begin to strategize a search?
Well, that's where you're going to have to do that type of, boots in the ground grid type search. And that's what you're doing and seeing also. You've been having that before. They're opening up areas, and I guarantee they're opening these areas because now they're realizing we need more, more eyes out in the ground. And that's what it comes down to. These type of park searches, and that's why drones are a good part and parcel to use that. More technology available to you, so you have that. You utilize dogs, you utilize all of the things that you have at your availability. But how big is that park? How much distance can you cover within that time frame? That's where the problem started. Like, how far can you extensively continue that grid search. You have to, that's resources, that's manpower. And that's why the technology that you're going to use is with the drone.
Right. And like,
So let's look at this from a logical perspective. And I don't know if this has been addressed in that podcast that you were just telling me about. I pulled it up just now. So if it's been addressed later on, then I beg for forgiveness in advance. I've never been homeless, so I don't know honestly what it would take to be able to live on the streets or live in the woods or live from park site to park site. Okay, so I am assuming though it would be almost the same type of environment as you would need to go camping. I mean, because he's essentially living out of his truck. So if you're living out of your truck, you would need sleeping bags, you would need different variations of things. So you would also need water, you would need MREs if you had those, you would need, utensils, you would need, just very basic stuff if you're living out of your truck. Not saying that it couldn't be possible, but at what point is he still in the truck? Did he ditch the truck? Is he in the woods? Is he deceased? Those are our options right now, I believe. And I like what you are saying in the chat. Don't stop chatting on my account, okay?
like how you mentioned drones, they're maybe even using heat sensors, things advanced like that. We also know that the governor, he just allowed the authorities, more helicopters for them to use as well to try to, fly above and try to find the suspect. We know that his cell phone is also off. You mentioned that earlier. What role, though, does cell phone tracking or Wi-Fi pings play when someone tries to disappear? Is it possible that before he turned his phone off, they could ping where he was?
Well, that's what they're doing. They're trying to backtrack. You can do that type of search after the fact. But the thing is now that phone has been off since this incident has taken place, apparently. Is there a chance he has another phone, a burner phone, that they don't have access or records to? This is a person who's extensive military training. He's researched these things about going to Canada.
But if he was seen, like right there, if this is a recent camera shot, he has two pizzas. It looks like from Little Caesars. I don't know if this is a recent picture or not, but I know that ring cam picture was pretty recent. So it doesn't look like he's roughing it. It looks pretty well taken care of right there. I mean, could he be showering at the KOA? I mean, could he been doing that? New Nation on YouTube just recently put out an update about 23 hours ago. And they talk a lot about when he was off the grid and where they're looking for him now. Okay.
So he could be off the grid that we know of, but be back on the grid on a burner phone, those type of phones that just, are easily accessible. But he's also knows he's not going to turn it on right away. And that's the thing. The planning there is what we have to look at. How well was this planned? And that's why, he's relatively homeless and he lived in his car. We're going to look back and maybe find materials, people he knew before, a step back to get that information that maybe help you find what happened post-event.
What would someone like Travis need to survive out there for weeks or even months? We know that during a press conference, police say that he could have possibly placed some things around the area. I'm just trying to figure out, how does a person survive?
Well, that's the thing. You see these reality shows where they do these nature, these people survive against nature. He's done this for weeks at a time, and let's just presume and speculate he prepped prior to going. So he has the capability, he has the wherewithal, and probably supplies to last an extended period of time in the woods or in that forest. But then,
So, I mean, if he had that capability to know that people are looking for him, that doesn't necessarily mean that he would go into hiding. I mean, sometimes the best place to be when you're being looked for is amongst other people. You get what I'm saying? So I pulled it up, so we'll finish this and then we'll go to the next one.
Access to water may become an issue. Access to any, how cold does he have the materials to stay out there for a long period of time? It's possible. This is a person who's trained to do this, and you have to really look at that and hunker down. And that's why you have to get the psyche, and that's why I think it's always good to go back to talk to his former colleagues, his commanding officers, and find out what extensive training does he have and where does he done. And they're hearing that he's done this. He's gone away and disappeared for days and weeks at a time. This isn't something that a person a New York City resident who just, doesn't really deal with the nature aspect of it. He knows what he's doing.
And let's talk about crossing borders. The bodies were found about 11 miles from the Canadian border. How easy is it for him to get to Canada? Because, of course, when I think about crossing a border, I'm thinking about in a car, and clearly you have to show your passport. But if he's on foot and he's used to doing this, is it possible for him to just have found a way around the border police and just get there?
So 8 miles is really not that far. I mean, if he does know a secret way into Canada where, he could cross the border without being seen. I don't know how stringent their border crossings are. I don't know.
Absolutely, and that's one thing that how secure are the borders in this case? How secure are the northwestern borders between Canada and the U.S.? This park and this national park, and it's apparently you could find access to that. He could go to Canada and no one even knew he was there. He could be in there for 2 or 3 days and no one would know, because that border isn't as this is the one thing about borders. How secure are they? And it looks like more than likely it wasn't secure enough for one person to walk just across a park and go, I'm here in the U.S. now, I'm in Canada.
How quickly can local law enforcement coordinate with Canadian authorities in a case like this? If they do
y'all know what the laws are? Like, if he did cross over to Canada, how extensive would it be to hunt him down and possibly extradite him? I wonder how difficult that would be. I'm not sure his wife's lawyer mentioned in an interview, but I can't remember. So he was in the Army. All right. It's been a hell of a day, hasn't it, Texas? All this rain we're getting.
believe that he has crossed the border?
I
Hey,
believe
Jeff.
they've already started. The ball's rolling on that. They probably have the Royal Canadian Mounties. They're going to have their federal authorities involved, their local authorities. They're going to share information, share their intel back and forth, what they may have, what they don't have. And that's the benefit with law enforcement. It's about cooperation. It's about doing what's right, doing the right thing in this case. And the right thing all of them are going to look for is apprehending him.
And let's just get into Travis's mind right now. What kind of mindset do you think someone like him is in? Like, what do you think he's dealing with? What do you think he's thinking?
So there's that mind thing. There's a reason why everybody wants to know what's on their mind. Y'all know what that reason is they want to be able to profile this individual to potentially be able to find him quicker.
Thinking about, do you think that he has access to the media to be hearing, what we're talking about? Because during a press conference, the police, they're calling out to him. They're saying, Travis, please, turn yourself in. But maybe he's not even hearing this right now.
That's a possibility. I mean, it's an endless string of possibilities with what he did. The mindset, I can't even understand the mindset of a person who would asphyxiate his 3 kids, tie them up, bags on their head. And we don't know how, we'll get the autopsy, was it blunt force trauma they suffered, were they lined up?
As mad as Canada is at us, they'd probably put a tariff on him. He could possibly navigate to Canada through the woods pretty easily with his ranger training, but I doubt he's doing that. Why would he want to keep going? He's got nothing left. Good thought. Good thought right there.
Up one by one. I mean, the mindset of this person is warped at this point. But one thing happens that we see a lot is the skills that you develop and were trained in, you always fall back on. And that's what he's going to do right now with what he's doing. He planned to Canada. He had that thing in his Google search. He was at that scene prior to. So this goes back to the thing. This is a planned event. This is a planned triple murder of his kids. As to why he did it, there's a myriad of reasons, possibly mental illness, PTSD, vengeance against the ex-wife. I don't know, but he had a good relationship with the kids, apparently. So,
I mean, I think that's bullshit after a long period of hearing, let's blame everything on mental illness, at one point, you have to be responsible to take your medication, to be following up on your appointments, stuff like that. At one point, we got to hold accountability. We can't just put, okay, they were off on their meds, so therefore, it was okay that they killed their kids. No, it's not okay. It's not okay. Oh, they were autistic. That makes it okay. That's why, it's okay that they killed 4 people. No, it's not okay. Not okay.
I don't know the mindset. Was it to end all ties with the United States and go to Canada and live a new life? Being homeless, and a homeless vet and not getting any access to aftercare, mental health care, that could just weigh on him, and he decided, I'm out. But the end result is he is believed to be responsible for the murder of his 3 kids, and that's.
I do understand the difficulty in getting mental health care being a veteran. I do get all the red tape. I do get everything that they do and to keep people from getting help. I get that. But at one point, there's physicians, there's world doctors, free world doctors that you can go and get 30 days supply. You can go inpatient for 30 days and they'll give you 30 days worth until you can get in to see your doctor. I mean, you just got to do what you got to do. It's just terrible that kids like this have to suffer because adults just want to take the easier way out.
We have to look at. I can't worry about the mindset is a guy who's leaving the scene and moving on from his life. This isn't a person who committed suicide. We have not found his remains, if his body is there. All we know is this person is on the loose. He's killed his kids, and he is trained to kill, and he is dangerous at this time. So that mindset, we can't worry about the mindset more than just what we know about him right now.
And I'm assuming you've tracked people like this before. Are there any consistent behaviors or mistakes that fugitives tend to make? Because at some point, we have to think that Mr. Decker is going to slip up. Or with a person as smart and as trained as him, it's possible that maybe he won't make any mistakes. What do you think?
Well, that's the benefit of social media and putting those recent photos out there. And that's the reason why we share information that's going to be posted everywhere that he could possibly have been or got to within the time frame that he's in. It really matters, and I always say this, the public is very important in these types of cases because there's only a certain amount of set of eyes that law enforcement has. This type of case, we need everybody involved. We need the public's involvement. We need that person who sees him and calls 911 and says, I see him, he's located here. So that's the reason why we try to get more information out as quickly as possible to identify, to locate where he is. And that's why, no matter what law enforcement can do, it really matters on the public's help in this. We see this all the time,
Okay, let me get this other one fired up here. This is the News Nation that Cuffy was talking about. So let's go ahead and watch that one. How's everybody doing? Thank y'all for being in here. Really, it's not too far to cross the border. You're right. Hey, Leslie, I'm glad you made it back. It's sad that it says Travis Decker is running scared and we're looking for him to surrender. Let's see what they got to say.
Federal authorities now joining the manhunt to find a missing Washington state man who is believed to have killed his own 3 young daughters. There are 3 newly released photos showing the suspect, 32-year-old Travis Decker, and several of his tattoos. There's also now a $20,000 reward for any information leading to his capture. Decker's been on the run since May 30th. That's when he did not.
You're fine. Like I said, I don't know a lot about this case, and you're helping us learn. So we appreciate your knowledge.
Return the girls to their mother after a planned visitation. Police say all 3 girls were later found suffocated to death at an abandoned campsite. Authorities already searching a forest preserve where Decker was last known to be hiding. He is a former Army soldier with wilderness survival skills. He has the knowledge to live in the woods on his own for months. So I'd like to welcome in now Sheriff Mike Morrison of the Chelan County Sheriff's Office, the lead investigative agency on this case. Sheriff, thank you so much.
So I wonder where he was for the last 2.5 months. Was he preparing for this? Was he able to, like, be setting up an escape location? Was he in Canada setting up a different life? I mean, what was he doing for 2.5 months?
Much for your time. We know this manhunt has expanded, and today we got the news that your office is assigning search responsibilities and tracking specifically to your federal partners. Explain what that means going forward, and what do you think it will take to ultimately bring Decker in?
Yeah, so we recognize that resources are limited and that you can only push your guys so far. We've been going pretty hard for about a week. A lot of our detectives, deputies working over 100 hours within that week, along with our federal partners, state partners. And so we understood that the primary focus has to be the criminal investigation. We continue to put resources and focus on that area, working with our prosecutor's office, the coroner's office, and we want to make sure that we're prepared when we go to court. And we recognize that handing over the incident command system to our federal entities helps us better utilize our limited resources that we have while we're maintaining our focus on serving our community. But overall, I mean, we recognize that Mr.
I mean, that's a touchy subject for sure. It's kind of like the illegals that come over here under the last administration and got more help than our veteran did coming back from war. I mean, it's a touchy subject. And, they came back, the illegals came over here, they got housing, they got places, they got phones, they got all kinds of stuff. It's a touchy subject. So I don't know. I really wish that they do better with that. Unfortunately, at this point, they're not. Canada has strict border crossings, however, it's a vast wilderness, and they wouldn't be crossing west the average person would cross. I agree the VA needs more help. Instead of funding immigrants, help out our soldiers. Yeah, I agree with you. Well, I know, but I'm just saying that, you know, it just it's not very beneficial to our veterans when they're coming home. And like you said, if he had the ability to get on his feet or somewhere to potentially be able to get on his feet, get on the right medication, just never know how this could have turned out different.
Decker's running scared. He's the coward that we've always known him to be. We're looking for him to turn himself in and do the right thing, take accountability for his actions, and honor his daughters, which he should have done in the first place. But we remain focused on finding him. We have units on the ground. We have our SWAT team right now also on the ground that's continuing to search an area of interest. So we haven't given up 100% on that front. We recognize that we are going to have to start delegating some of our duties and responsibilities out to other partners, which we've been thankful to have them on the ground. But we're going to continue to do what we need to do to bring justice to Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia to make sure that their voices are heard and that, again, Travis takes responsibility for his actions. So
Yes.
We welcome him to turn himself in at any time.
Such a huge, huge loss there. Sheriff, is there evidence that he is still alive, or is this possibly a search for his remains?
We believe that he's still alive, and we won't think otherwise until we either find his body, which we rather have him be alive, and stand in front of our judges to take responsibility for his actions and get to explain what happened if he's not responsible for it.
So we know that he has military experience here. How does that impact
Do y'all believe that, he'll do the suicide by cop if he is cornered?
the search, Sheriff? And what is your message to people who may come in contact with him?
So we recognize that he is a danger to our community. We put that message out there, and we want to make sure that people are aware that, he doesn't appear to be thinking clearly and is on the run, does not want to make efforts to contact us despite our invites. And so I would tell people to be cautious if they were to interact with him or see him. And in regards to his training, I recognize that he does have some unique training. He's familiar with the outdoors, but so are several members of our team and our search party that also are legitimate special forces individuals and deserve that title of being recognized as a proud servant to our country. I don't think Travis deserves that recognition. He's not acting with nobility or honor at this time. So despite...
Hey, that's a good thought. That's a good thought, JB. Is it possible this guy built an underground bunker in those 2.5 months he was off the grid? Again, could not agree more. If I had mental health issues such as my son and I know that somebody in crisis looked like this man was in crisis. Yeah, I'm not minimizing that at all. Borderline personality, PTSD, that's nothing to mess with, I think he will. As soon as he is spotted, he will probably show force to engage.
His training, I'm not going to give him that kind of credit. The other men and women who serve our country deserve that recognition, and we're going to continue to treat him exactly as is, which is a criminal.
Absolutely. My last question for you, Sheriff. I have to talk about the mother of these murdered girls. Do you know, is she getting the support she needs for such a massive loss?
Yes. So, we thank Wenatchee Police Department, who's been on the ground since day one, brought us into this investigation as well. We are glad to assist where we could, but they've been a consistent point of contact for the family. And just a wonderful woman. We appreciated her assistance. Our heart goes out to her and the family. We understand the loss and the stress they're taking on. And we remind them, they're not taking this on alone. I know as a community, we're all suffering. We recognize that she's suffering. We're going to continue to do what we can to support the family in every way possible and be that voice for the girls while they can focus just on the tragedy and the loss that they're experiencing.
Absolutely. I know that the search...
Okay, so that was that one. And I'm going to play a little bit of this Stephanie Harlow. I don't know who she is, but Cuff You is, I guess, I don't know what you would call it. Recommending her. Let's see what she has to say. 5 minutes long.
I want to give you some quick updates in the Travis Decker case and the manhunt. I posted a video a few days ago about Travis Decker. His 3 daughters were found dead after he didn't bring them back after a custody visit. And there's a few updates that have come out. So for the blood, now the sheriff's office has said that preliminary tests on this blood found at the scene where the 3 girls were found, they revealed that 1 blood sample taken from the scene belonged to a male and 1 blood sample was from an animal. Now, the sheriff's office did not say whether these blood samples were taken from the tailgate of Travis Decker's vehicle, because remember, there was 2 bloody handprints found on the tailgate. I assume that that's where the samples came from, but they haven't confirmed that. They have said.
So could he had blood on him after killing the girls? I mean, could there have been fighting? Could there have been scratching, biting? Anything? Didn't the mom say kidnapped them? I thought he had visitation, so I don't think he kidnapped them.
Though that DNA and fingerprint analysis are currently pending. Now, a lot of people had questions about Travis Decker's dogs because he had 2 dogs that he, really loved and they were always with him. These dogs were found alive at the scene and they've been turned over to the Humane Society for care. Now, late last night, the sheriff's office said that the search teams are looking for Decker in the area of Ingalls Creek and Valley High. They say he's potentially believed to be in that area. This area is in Leavenworth. Now, also, newly filed affidavits from the U.S. Marshal's Office stated that on May 26, which was less than a week before Travis didn't bring his daughters home, that Travis Decker used Google to search how does a person move to Canada, how to relocate to Canada, and jobs in Canada. He also visited the official Canadian job website. So, Leavenworth, Washington is actually pretty close to the Canadian border. It's geographically very feasible to get there. It's only about 100 miles as the crow flies to the border. However, crossing into Canada illegally, especially while avoiding Border Patrol, would be much harder than it seems due to terrain.
That's a good thought, Ronnie. Maybe one of the dogs was protecting one of the girls. I mean, you just never know, right? It's a good thought. And Harlot, what you said, the way they say handprints makes me picture full handprints. Wonder how much blood there actually was. Exactly.
Terrain, surveillance, and bilateral border enforcement agreements. Now, the border in this area, especially north of Leavenworth through the North Cascades or the Colville National Forest, is extremely rugged. Dense forest, mountains, remote roads. But we do know that Travis Decker has experience living off the grid. I just read an article where they said he did it for 2.5 months once. Now, the US Canada border is heavily monitored. So if Travis was trying to get into Canada and not go through a legitimate border crossing and kind of go through the wilderness to get in, it is still monitored. There's ground sensors, there's drones, cameras, and patrol units. And even off grid trails and forest roads are regularly checked. Especially with Travis Decker being on the run now, I guarantee you security is high. So the distance from Leavenworth to Canada is feasible, it's low, but terrain challenges and border security is high. Now, I did do some research to figure out if a man who was, 30s, physically fit, ex military, or formal survivalist.
Good question, JB. Who does he know in Canada? Who could be assisting with this situation? I mean, if he was homeless, living out of his vehicle, went off the grid for 2.5 months, no telling what he's doing right now.
With backwoods navigation and endurance training, who's on the run, armed with a backpack, water filter, thermal blanket, and topographic map. Would this person be able to get into Canada undetected, and what route would they take? So Leavenworth lies at the edge of the Okanagan-Wenatchee Natural Forest, or National Forest, which is a good place to disappear. And this man could head northeast toward Lake Shallon, then cut up the Pasitayan Wilderness. So this is going to keep them away from major highways and avoids ports of entry, because Pasitayan, I'm not saying these all right, I'm sure, but this area is remote, mountainous, and sits directly on the US-Canada border. So if this person traveled at night, camped in hidden areas, moved off trails, stayed near creeks and natural paths, and avoided towns like Twisp or Winthrop, and used game trails and alpine ridges to avoid sensors and cameras on forest roads, they could technically do it. The US-Canada border here is unfenced.
I mean, you have to wonder, it's how long has he had this PTSD? How long did he have the borderline personality disorder and anything else he might have had? How long was he diagnosed with that? Was he taking his meds? Was he under the care of a physician? Um, did something trigger this situation? I mean, all that goes into effect. Kind of like, we heard Brent Kopaka had PTSD. And we also saw a video where he wasn't right when he was sitting in the hall. He was rocking back and forth and, just mumbling. So, I mean, a lot of times anything can trigger this PTSD, and we don't know exactly where or when this might have occurred. Did this happen, due to something that the girl did that may have, triggered it? Did the dog do it? You know, just never know.
It's a clear-cut slash, which is a 20-foot wide deforested line. There are motion sensors and cameras at known paths, but a savvy traveler might avoid them by crossing midday during a storm, picking a lesser monitored ridgeline or valley, and avoiding the few unofficial backcountry trails where surveillance is denser. So if Travis crossed just east of Cathedral Provincial Park in British Columbia, he would be in the Canadian wilderness, but he would still have to avoid detection by RCMP or Canadian Border Services, and he could hike south to north through Ewart Creek Trail or Wall Creek Trail until he reached a road near Caramos, British Columbia. So it is possible. It is possible, and I'm sure the authorities know of the same route that I'm talking about. They are the experts. I'm sure they have them heavily monitored. We will see, but it is possible to get into Canada from Washington State undetected if you know what you're doing. Let me know what you think.
Okay. Well, that's all I have for you currently. I mean, I want to get a little more intricated with this case and cuff you if you'd like to come up on the next time that I do a live on this case. You're more than welcome. You seem to know a lot. Yeah, you might run into grizzlies. You don't know. You don't know. But thank you guys for being here, and I'll see you again soon. I got some things I got to go take care of. Y'all have a wonderful afternoon. Maestro, cue that music.